Welcome back to Real Estate Talk with the bottom of the hour, friend. We're talking about the importance of a property management company for you, the thinker out there that wants to utilize investment property to way outperform, this is just my little 2 cents, your traditional retirement accounts. Live in the studio is my buddy Eford Properties, Mr. Kerry Eford. This cat, you know, went out there and made it happen over, what did you say, 10 years?
Well, we've been in legal business at 10 years. I've been in the business 19, working for other people, and we started with our one property and built it up to about 550 properties.
Yeah. Yep. I know where to come when I need a loan. You know, if I need to pay my rent, I'll come call you.
We work on slim margins, let me tell you.
So, talk to me a little bit about, as we were discussing what the landlord's protocol is to kick somebody out. What's that back door thing?
What do you mean? Oh, the back door, just you can't take the back door.
Give me the shortened version. Do you ever, when you evict somebody, you get any pushback, you know, people saying, I'm not leaving, they hunker in? Has that ever been the case?
Well, they can think that, but, you know, the reality is, you know, the law, we have the law on our, they have the law too on their side. But the landlord has, they can't just stay. I mean, the legal process of the lease that's legally binding lease on both parties, the filing, the sending the notice, filing the evictions, you know, getting the writ of possession, and actually setting their things out on the sidewalk.
They set it out on the sidewalk.
Set them out on the sidewalk. Yes.
What if it's raining?
Well, they won't do it if it's raining.
Okay.
They won't do it if it's raining. But
or snowing.
But it could rain after.
If it's well, it could rain after. That's true. But once that stuff is out on the sidewalk, the prized possessions, and I've done it before, and the constable oversees it, and everything is out. The locks, the doors have been changed. The locks, the tenants can't get back in the house, and the constable pulls on the final tug to make sure everything's locked up. Everybody disperses. The stuff remains, and whoever gets it gets it.
It's very sad.
It's
so
unprotected.
Well, and that's why, like, we early, in segment 2, we talked about kind of like the eviction from the court and the landlord perspective. So you wanted to talk about the tenants.
I did, but I wanted to ask him. I wanted to ask Kerry one other thing. Let's say that a landlord is managing, and here's another reason to use your company. Let's say a landlord has a tenant, and they're not paying rent. They don't have a property management company. Is it legal for them in the summertime to sweat them out?
No.
Right?
No.
Can't turn the utilities off.
No.
Can't do any of that.
They don't have that right. And the utilities are typically in the tenant's name anyway.
And if that's why we got the law. They don't have to do that. They have a legal right to have their possession of their house if they go through the due process of the eviction and the writ of possession.
As it should be. That's how it should be, because, like, we're not an inhumane society, right? Like.
Well, I tell you
now sometimes to delay that, tenants can file excuse me, I'm sorry.
Well, let me just say this.
I can't remember the term.
Heather, you remember my cousin's curb chain?
Yeah.
Down there in New Iberia?
That's right.
They rented from me 1 year.
Okay.
And them are cousins, you know?
Yeah,
And then they ain't paying rent.
Yeah.
So down there in New Iberia, there's a lot of stuff in the bayous, right?
Well, yeah.
I had to sweat them out.
Well, that's family law,
cousin.
Willie. That's another story.
Family law.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what the tenants' rights are.
Okay, so the tenants' rights, like everybody has rights in everything, right? So the idea, the landlord has rights because they're the business owner, right? So sometimes people don't look at a landlord or even owning one property as being a business owner, but you absolutely are. So we try to change, like, the paradigm shift of what that really means, but you're absolutely a business owner. And so Texas tries to protect those rights for the business owner, but of course the tenant has rights, absolutely. And there's some bad landlords out there, right? So one of Kerry and I's jobs are to teach landlords to be better patrons of the industry and to teach tenants to be better patrons of the industry, both rising and elevating both of those sectors. But the tenants have rights in a way where, like you said, no, they can't, the landlord can't sweat them out. That means they don't fix the AC. But also the landlord must attempt to repair or attempt to fix anything that affects a tenant's normal health and normal tenants, excuse me, health and safety within 7 days. So that's an attempt to repair within 7 days of a normal tenant's health and safety.
Does that include a sloping foundation?
No. If the sloping foundation was on a pier and beam and the house was going to fall over, yeah, that would probably qualify. But a sloping beam or sloping house where you just can't bring grandma over because grandma might roll down, that might not be. It's a lot of gray, Willie. There's very little black and white.
It affects the material health and safety of an
normal
ordinary tenant. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's some issue that it's really a gray area, and you have. I mean, it's really kind of like a touchy subject when a tenant calls and said, "Well, you got mold in the house, and my son's got allergies, and I want the ducts cleaned and all of that." Well, did that exist? That health condition exist before you moved in that house? And is there mold? So you have to work it out somehow to where it's a win-win, a solvent situation over time. But it just takes a little bit of talking and communication. I don't want to use the word finesse, but you got to be careful what you say too. You don't want to say, "Well, hey, I'm sorry, tough luck." Well, that just exacerbates.
So you're telling me family law doesn't apply to fresh corn and curb chain down there in New Liberia?
Well, okay, as realtors, Carrie and I always have to disclaim we're not lawyers, okay? Yeah. So we can't give legal advice.
Well, you just gave me a great idea. I'm gonna get down there and
tell them to.
This summertime they're not coming out, so I'm gonna put a rope around that bottom cinder block. And I'll make it to where they won't move out.
Okay,
I'm playing.
Yeah, be nice. Okay, but tenants another thing that I think is really a shocker to a lot of people in Texas. It gets to like 110 degrees here in August, right? And the landlord does not have to supply a central working air conditioner. Okay, they don't have to do that. What they do have to provide are operable windows with screens if there's not a working AC. But then that also gets into the gray area, okay? Because Willie, I can see your face right now. It's
inhumane.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, I agree.
It falls under family law.
It is inhumane. I 100% agree with that. But according to the Texas Property Code, the landlord does not have to provide that. But humanity says you should, right? So that's a gray area too, where if the tenant dies because they have a heat stroke in 110 degrees, but the law says the landlord doesn't have to provide an AC, but the tenant dies, like whose liability do you think it's going to fall on?
I'm not sure the legal ramifications of that because I am not an attorney.
Because we are not attorneys.
But if I rent a house with AC in it, it needs to have AC in it through the term.
Without a doubt.
That's
the right thing to do.
It's written in the lease that the landlord is responsible for the heat, air, plumbing, electrical, and appliances that are part of the house, like the dishwasher, not necessarily the refrigerator or anything like that. But so if it's broke, you need to fix it.
You need to do that. That's the right thing to do. And if the tenant caused the
problem, then they're responsible to fix it. That's part of the lease too.
Yeah. And navigating through that, how do you really know whose fault is what? Like, did the tenant not change the air filter for 12 months? And then
this is why you want a property management company, because you don't want to be in the people business. At least a lot of people tell me
I've got a solution for the changing the air filters when we come back.
Yeah, I got to go to break. Our friends over at Eford Properties, we'll come to the top of the hour. You can reach out to Kerry. He's a good guy. 972-572-5656. 972-572-5656. Tell him you heard it here with your old buddy, Willie Lambright on Real Estate Talk. We'll be back in a Willie Scotia.